Good morning, everyone. Today, we will be talking about Salman Rushdie and about his one of the famous novels, Shalimar the Clown. We will talk about the political and historical issues that are presented from new dimension in Rushdie's novel. So let's start. And before starting, let me share the screen and let's see what is there in today's seminar.
But before that, let me give my introduction. My name is Dr. Papai Pal. I am a faculty of English assistant professor in Tripura Government Law College. And before delving deeper into the various dimensions of the novel, I think it is very important to talk about the something about the writer and his personal interest, his personal connections about the issues he discussed in his novel. So, if we delve deep into the biography of Salman Rushdie, we find that Salman Rushdie's personal life it deeply connects with the themes of cultural identity, identity loss, and identity crisis, and all these themes are very beautifully projected in Shalimar the Clown. Rushdie was born in India, and later he was exiled due to the satanic verses controversy that is very popular. We all know about it. Rushdie embodies the displacement and fragmentation his characters experience. Through his characters, he embodies these themes of identity crisis, fragmentation, displacement, all these things he projects through his character. His multicultural background, spanning India, Pakistan, and the West also, it mirrors the novel's conflicts between tradition and modernity. His novels is a bridge between tradition and modernity, and the destruction of Pachigam in Shalimar the Clown reflects Rushdie's own loss of belonging, while Shalimar's transformation into a terrorist echoes the radicalization of those uprooted from their heritage. Rushdie's personal struggles also, is an enriching, experience in the exploration of the themes of exile, identity, and cultural erosion. Now, in introduction, I have tried to give various dimensions, a very sneak nook into the various corners of the novel. Shalimar the Clown, it is a novel that explores love, revenge, and political turmoil. And this novel is set in Kashmir. It examines history, it examines cultural loss, and it also examines the rise of extremism. And in this way, it becomes a global narrative which links Kashmir's conflict to broader geopolitical tensions. In this novel, we find this, as I have already said, this novel is set in Kashmir, and it follows the tragic love story of Shalimar and Buni. And the betrayal of Buni sparks a cycle of violence, not only in Shalimar's life but also in the geopolitical setting of Kashmir. And Shalimar's transformation, he was a very innocent boy earlier projected in the novel, and Shalimar's transformation from a passionate lover to a ruthless assassin who assassinates Max Ophuls. It symbolizes personal and political betrayal, and it mirrors Kashmir's descent into violence. The novel explores the complexities of identity, religious extremism, and geopolitical conflicts. And the novel also portrays the loss of communal coexistence, because in this novel we find that the Hindus and the Muslims used to live very peacefully in the village of Pachigam, that particular village which is projected in the novel. But with the gradual progression, because of the geopolitical issues, we find that there is a destruction of its the rich tradition of Kashmiri people, where they used to they used to live together very peacefully. So the novel portrays the loss of communal coexistence as political and religious extremism take root. Through Shalimar's transformation from a performer to a terrorist, Rushdie critiques the forces that erode cultural identity. The story weaves personal betrayal with historical tragedy. Now, after the introduction, in this slide, I will talk about the historical context of Kashmir. how Kashmir was known for its multicultural Kashmirian tradition, how the partition of 1947 led to Indo-Pak conflict over the region, how the rising militancy in the 1980s and the exodus of Kashmiri Pandits, these events took place in Kashmir, and how the novel metaphorically represents the decline of Kashmir's harmony. In this novel, Salman Rushdie highlights the erosion of Kashmir's multicultural identity, which he terms as Kashmiriyat tradition, a century-old ethos of religious coexistence where Hindus and Muslims used to live peacefully with cultural harmony. And Kashmir becomes a battleground for political and religious extremism, as we find in the later portion of this novel. Through the lives of Shalimar and Muni, the novel portrays the loss of this shared identity as violence and separatist movements took hold of Kashmir. Now, in the context of 1947 partition, which led to ongoing Indo-Pak conflicts over the region, this novel reflects how partition fractured communities, turning Kashmir into a contested land caught between two nations. As political instability grows, the region's syncretic culture crumbles, giving way to violence and extremism. And we also find the rising militancy in Kashmir during the 1980s and the tragic exodus of Kashmiri Pandits we find in the novel. Once a land of cultural harmony, Kashmir descends into violence as insurgency takes hold, fueled by geopolitical tensions and religious extremism. The novel reflects how local communities are torn apart, with Kashmiri Pandits they were forced to flee from their homeland. And Shalimar's transformation into a militant symbolizes this shift, as personal betrayal often mirrors the broader socio-political upheavals, and Rushdie literally mourns the loss of Kashmir's pluralistic identity in this novel, depicting the deep scars left by violence, displacement, identity crisis, and exile. Now, in the next slide, I will discuss about the key political themes in the novel. The first theme that we find in the novel is the colonial legacies, the partition's impact on Kashmir. The second theme that I find in the novel is the religious extremism, which is very much evident, radicalization and its political manipulation. Then we also find global terrorism, how local conflicts influence international politics. Then the Western intervention is very much prominent, the role of Western powers in shaping conflicts. In this novel, the novel portrays how British colonialism hasty exit in 1947 left unresolved territorial disputes, turning Kashmir into a battleground between India and Pakistan. Then also the novel examines religious extremism, radicalization and their political manipulation in the context of Kashmir. The novel illustrates how political forces exploit religious identities to fuel conflict, turning once peaceful communities into battlegrounds. Then the novel also explores how local conflicts, particularly in Kashmir, influence global terrorism and international politics. The novel illustrates how regional struggles are not isolated but rather intertwined with larger geopolitical forces. By linking Kashmir's turmoil to global conflicts, the novel highlights how localized violence fuels international instability, demonstrating the far-reaching consequence of regional unrest. Then the novel illustrates how external intervention, both during and after the colonial era, exacerbates local tensions. Rushdie explores how Western nations, through their political and strategic interest, influence the region's instability, from the partition of India to their involvement in the Cold War dynamics like this. Kashmir's tragedy becomes a microcosm of the broader impact of Western interventions, where global powers manipulate conflicts for their own agendas, often disregarding the cultural and human consequences that the people suffer. This intervention amplifies divisions and prolongs suffering, as seen in the characters' personal and political struggles. Let me also talk about colonialism and the Kashmiri conflict that we find in the novel. In Shalimar the Clown, Salman Rushdie critiques the legacy of British colonial policies which left Kashmir in perpetual turmoil. The arbitrary borders drawn during partition fueled the India Pakistan disputes, plunging the region into ongoing political instability. The novel explores how these historical divisions continue to shape the lives of these characters, with Kashmir becoming a battleground for competing nationalist and religious ideologies. Rushdie also critiques the role of Western interventions in post colonial states, highlighting how global powers manipulate local conflicts or for their own strategic interests. This exacerbates the suffering and prolongs instability as seen in Kashmir's ongoing tragedy and the personal transformation within the narrative. Now let's talk about the rise of religious extremism. In Shalimar the Clown, we find the Shalimar's transformation from a performer to a terrorist. We find influence of Pakistan-backed militant groups. We find loss of Kashmir's secular identity, and we also find criticism of both state and non-state actors in escalating violence. Uh, uh, that the picture of the setting of the picture of Pachigam from being transformed from a very peace loving background to a violent one, it symbolizes the erosion of Kashmir's secular identity. Pachigam was once a symbol of cultural harmony, and its inhabitant Shalimar's life also is shattered by betrayal, political manipulation, and that rising violence. The novel critiques the influence of Pakistan-backed militant groups that exploit religious and nationalist sentiments to incite violence, further deepening divisions. Rushdie's portrayal of Shalimar's radicalization highlights the broader political forces at play, criticizing both state and non-state actors for their roles in escalating conflict. Through Shalimar's tragic journey, the novel laments the loss of Kashmir's pluralistic identity, which is overtaken by extremism and violence. Let's talk about global terrorism and West's role in this light. Shalimar's assassination. Shalimar's killed Buni's secret lover, Max Ophulus, who is a US ambassador to Pachigam in Kashmir. So, Shalimar's assassination of Max Ophulus symbolizes globalized terrorism, and it has a connection between regional militancy and international terrorist networks. It critiques the US policies also, supporting extremists for strategic gains, and it also highlights the 1911 World Trade Center attack, and it's a reflection on how terrorism is politically constructed. The assassination of Max Ophulus serves as a stark symbol of globalized terrorism. This personal act of violence is not merely an isolated incident, but it represents the interconnectedness of regional militancy and international terrorist networks. Then Rushdie also critiques US policies, particularly the Cold War era support for extremist groups as a means of countering Soviet influence. So, in this context, the US backed militants in Afghanistan, many of whom later became part of the broader network of global terrorism, these things are highly reflected in the novel. Shalimar was also one such, member of such terrorist group. This political manipulation not only fueled regional instability but contributed to the rise of extremist ideologies. Then the attack on 1911 World Trade Center, it questions this reference is there in the novel. This reference questions how terrorism is politically constructed. Rushdie explores how state and non-state actors, in their pursuit of strategic interest and their personal gain, create the conditions that enable terrorism to thrive. By highlighting the political and ideological manipulation behind acts of terror, the novel underscores the global dimension of violence.
Now, coming to this slide, this character analysis in the novel will give you some idea about, how the particular characters the characters are leading to the issues that are already discussed. Uh, Shalimar the Clown, he was a performing clown as projected in the novel, and how he transformed from a lover to a radicalized terrorist, and he is a symbol of Kashmiri youth, how this character is projected. Shalimar's progression from a passionate lover to a radicalized terrorist mirrors the tragic fate of many Kashmiri youth. Once hopeful and full of love for his homeland, he was full of love for his homeland. Shalimar is consumed by betrayal and personal loss. He suffered personal loss. He suffered the betrayal of his wife Buni, whom he loved a lot. Ultimately, this betrayal was embodying how young Kashmiris are often pushed towards extremism due to political and social turmoils. Now, next, coming to Buni, the wife of Shalimar, uh, how she was disillusioned and mirroring Kashmiri fate. How? Because initially Buni was also an innocent participant in a forbidden love. Her eventual betrayal mirrors the collapse of Kashmir's secular pluralistic identity. Her actions driven by a desire for social mobility. He moved from Kashmir to US in search of good fortune, and this mobility highlight the fracture in Kashmir's social fabric, where personal choices, personal greed are intertwined with the region's larger political struggles. Next, coming to Max Ophuls, he was a embodiment of Western imperialism and its unintended consequences. Now, he was an American diplomat, Max Ophuls, and he symbolizes Western imperialism and its unintended consequences. His role in the narrative critiques how Western powers, through their political and strategic actions, contribute to the destabilization of regions like Kashmir, and Ophuls' involvement reflects the larger theme of foreign intervention, where Western interests shape and often exacerbate the local conflicts, leading to unforeseen outcomes such as the rise of militancy and the tragic fates of characters like Shalimar and Buni. Let's have a look on the narrative style and allegory that is found, because allegory and magic realism are some of the very prominent features in Salman Rushdie's novel. Now, blend of magic realism, as I have said, and historical fiction. Now, Shalimar the Clown seamlessly blends magic realism and historical fiction to explore the deep cultural and political conflicts in Kashmir. Salman Rushdie employs fantastical elements to heighten the emotional and symbolic weight of the narrative, weaving a rich tapestry that spans personal tragedies and geopolitical upheaval. The use of magic realism allows for deeper exploration of love, betrayal, and radicalization, while also reflecting the surreal nature of living in a conflict zone. Then there is a non-linear storytelling to reflect the complexity of history also, which is a very known feature in Rushdie's novel. It is showcasing the fragmented and often contradictory nature of the past by eschewing a straightforward chronology. Rushdie underscores how historical events such as the Kashmir conflict are experienced differently by various individuals, highlighting the personal and collective consequences of political turmoil. Then there is the element of symbolism. Now, Pachigam, where this is the Kashmir, one of the Kashmir villages. This particular setting is projected in the novel, where Shalimar and Buni used to live, and where also Hindus and Muslims used to live very peacefully. Now, this Pachigam's distraction from a land of peace to a land of violence, this distraction is central to the novel's critique of Kashmir's cultural loss, not only political loss but cultural loss also, because this Pachigam was once a very vibrant village of harmony. Its annihilation represents the erasure of Kashmir's pluralistic identity and the erosion of its Kashmiriyat tradition. As Pachigam burns, okay, because of violence, it becomes a metaphor for the larger devastation of Kashmir's rich multicultural heritage displaced by violence and extremism. Now, in conclusion, we can that can focus on this uh, following points like Shalimar the Clown, how it remains a significant political critic, how it highlights how historical conflicts shape present day realities and urges readers to reflect on the human cost of political decisions. And the novel can be taken as a call for understanding Kashmir beyond stereotypes and propaganda. So, in conclusion, we can say that Shalimar the Cloud stands as a powerful political critic, urging readers to confront the deep complexities of historical conflicts and their impact on present day realities. Through the tragic lives of Shalimar, Buni, and Max Ophuls, Salman Rushdie explores how the historical turbulence of Kashmir, shaped by colonial legacies, partition, and ongoing territorial disputes, continues to affect the people. The novel emphasizing the long-lasting effects of political decisions, showing how violence, betrayal, and radicalization can ripple through generation. Then Rushdie also critiques the way political powers manipulate conflicts, often overlooking the human cost. The novel challenges readers to reflect on the devastating consequences of imperialism, religious extremism, and the geopolitical struggle that define Kashmir's fate. By focusing on personal narratives and the emotional toll of conflict on the characters, Rushdie humanizes the political urging, empathy, and deeper understanding behind the political issues. Then the novel also calls for a nuanced understanding of Kashmir beyond stereotypes and propaganda. It critiques the oversimplified portrayals of the region, which is not that much simple. In Western media, as Western media project Kashmir, the problems are much more deeper. And political discourse the novel offers a richer, more empathetic perspective on the Kashmiri people's struggles, the inner struggle. In doing so, the Shalimar the Clown becomes a plea for recognizing the humanity at the heart of Kashmir's strategy, away from the reductionist narratives of terrorism and nationalism. Thank you.